Hey everybody, today we're working on the Mad Mustang again. I don't know what part this is, but we got the motor out. The motor's at the shop. We're tearing it down to take a look at it. So I got in here and I vacuumed out some of the stuff underneath the hood. So one of the big things I want to do is, this car obviously has been hit right here, and then inside here the fender, they have it bolted behind this cross member, which I do believe it's supposed to be like this in front of the cross member. But anyway, we've got the car jacked up a little bit, and if you look at these two braces, it's kind of bent up down there. Those two bolts are down, those two bolts are up. So I went ahead and I got a very high quality Scott Drake export brace from Holley. So this export brace is supposed to be the right dimensions for this car, and if you lay it on there you can see how far off it is. So if you watched my other 65, the Mustang video, we cut the front end off of that car. It had an export brace on it, and we brought the junkyard front end in to weld up. This piece fell right into place, so I knew that the front end was where it was supposed to be. This front end is not where it's supposed to be. The underfloor rail is rotted out on this one. The front rail up here has got some rust in it. There's some rust in the shock towers. So we are going to go ahead, me and G Jr., he's around here someplace, we're going to go ahead and get these shock towers jacked out so we can put this export brace in. Like I said, we've got it up on jack stands. We probably have it in the wrong spot. We probably should move the jack stands farther back, but there's not much of that rail left. So I think we're just going to leave it there, and we're going to get the drill out with a wire wheel on the drill, and we're going to clean all 6 of these nuts real good. Get these braces out of here. Hopefully the car won't collapse. I don't think it will. The inner panel, the inner structures here are still in very good shape, and that one's in very good shape. And I have found a piece of square tubing that we can run to that bolt and put a jack over on this side to get these shock towers pushed out to get this lined up. So let me get these bolts cleaned up and taken these, and the nuts taken off. Let's get these old braces out of here and we'll be back. Alrighty, so from the time warp you could see that I got all those bolts out, those bolts out. 2 of those were loose. This is the wrong bolt that it's spinning, and then this bolt back here broke, which is not good. And then we had to set the car back on the ground so we could get the suspension to move around, so we can get this shock out of the way. I swear you should be able to just turn that and finagle this piece out. So we're gonna get this piece out and that piece out over there somehow, and I'll come back. We got to straighten the metal up there. You know, I'm not gonna show a lot of this, but I'll show the part of trying to stretch it out to get the bracket in. Alrighty, well, one of these bolts over here was just a bolt and a nut, so we ran to our hardware store and we bought some new carriage bolts with locking nuts, and we might have to take them to the grinder and grind the heads down a little bit to make them fit. So as you can see, I got that all lined up over there properly, and then over here you can see how far off we are right here. All right, but by putting it over on that one, we're pretty damn close here. I can go ahead and pry that to where we need to be, and this one's way far off. Look how far off it is. Like I said, this car, it looked like it was hit here who knows how many times. So this is pushed this way, it needs to go that way and forward. So I guess what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get my new bolts put in place. Real quick, where is that other rod? Well, here's a screwdriver. Let's see. Now the screwdriver won't fit. I have another rod just for ha-has. Can I pry this around to get it close? Oh, look at that. I can definitely pry it around to get it close. So here, see, we can pry it around. All right, so since that side's so close and that's so close, I'll probably go ahead and re-bolt that side up and get it started so it won't pop off, get a couple of bolts in here loose, and then come over here and see what I have to do to either pull this shock tower this way. We'll see what happens, but I'm going to go ahead and try to put that side back together. Oh, and by the way, the shock tower, that right there, that one there is the one for this side. This one here, the bolts came out, but the one bolt broke on the other side. I heated it up with a torch and I was able to back it out through the back side, so that's all taken care of. Should probably really paint these. You know, this is kind of going to be like a rat rod, I think, anyway. So we'll just continue on. Let me get this side all kind of put back together and a couple of bolts loose there. I will see what we have to do to get this side lined up. And then I'll probably have to go to the grinder and grind those down. So I got the 3 new nuts and carriage bolts in this side, but I think I made it much harder for me because these carriage bolts fit so tight in here. The other ones had a little bit of wiggle room. All right, so I got the export brace in on that side. And then if you come over to this side, you can see how far off it is. The bolts are here. So actually it looks like this shock tower needs to come forward some. Now, if I bolt this down to where it is, it puts that way far forward where it needs to go. The shock tower also needs to go forward. So what I think I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get this shock tower pried over and in, and then we'll pry this forward, and hopefully everything will settle in. I don't think I'm going to be able to film very much. I'm going to need both hands. So I'm going to start fiddling with it and see if I can get these 3 lined up, and then I'll come back. After I get these 3 lined up, I'll see if I can get those 4 lined up. But like I said, for right now, I'm going to bolt it all together without the shock tops on, so I can paint, at least, you know, strip them down and paint them. So I'll come back once I get the jack installed and show you what I'm going to do. Alrighty, so what I did is I put this beam to here, and I know I've crushed it a little bit here, doesn't matter, and down here, and I gave it a couple pumps, and I got that over far enough to where I got all the nuts started. So now what I'm going to do is, these are way off. They're like a hole off here. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down, and then I'm gonna let the pressure off and see if this somewhat comes close to where I can get my lineup down and to put the bolts in. Kind of scary there for a while, still kind of scary. So let me tighten all the bolts down. Here, I'll go ahead and put you on the tripod. And can you see everything? Both shock towers? Yep. All right, so these should be 9/16. Let me go get a, I don't want to use the impact gun, I don't want to shake everything loose. So I'm going to stay away from that in case that wants to pop out. This shock tower still might need to come forward some. I think this is going to be the worst of it. All right, there's those three. Worried about this shooting up and getting me. So, let me get these tight. I think once the car sits with this on there for a couple of weeks with no engine in there on the ground, it'll start pushing everything back to where it belongs. All right, so that is all hooked up. Oh yeah, I could hear it go click back in. All right. So let's see how far. Oh, I can see the hole. I can see the hole. If I can see the hole, that means I could probably get a screwdriver down in there. There's the little screwdriver. So it's all about a hole off this way. Hey, look at that. I got a screwdriver in there. Let's see if I can get one of these dowel pins lined up in there. Well, if I can't do that, let's try a screwdriver next. Screwdriver. There we go. Get the screwdriver out. It is so close to starting. There we go. See if I can get one of the bolts down in there now. This. Let's come up a little bit. I've got two. Now, I've got that one in the hole. But this has popped up some. I guess I should have left it jacked over. All right. So you got the gist of it so far. This is probably going to take me a couple hours to get the next piece done. So let me continue working on trying to get that piece in. I might have to put the jack back in and spread these a little bit again to get those to line up better so I can get the bolt started. Once I get the bolt started, I'll come back. Alrighty. Success. So what I ended up doing is right after I shut off the camera, you saw that I had these dowel pins in here. I went ahead and got this bar, and it gave me that extra bit of leverage to pull them this way. And then I got one started, then I got another one started, then I got another one started, and then I was able to get them all started. So these are all tight. These are all tight. You know, I didn't take any measurements before, but just for ha-has, I went ahead and grabbed my measuring tape, and I'm going from this point here up to the shock tower, and we're right at, from there to there, we're roughly at like 15 and a half. Oops, sorry, 15 and a half. And then the other side is basically 15 and a half. It might be off a hair depending on where I measure it from, but from roughly here to there, this is a good, let me go over here. From the lowest point there to there, it's like 15 and a half. That side over there is actually a little bit more, I think. Let me come over here. Let me try it again. Now that I got the tape all done. From here, hey, shoo, excuse me. No, it's 15 and a half. So now, from here to here, it's 15 and a half. From there to there, it's 15 and a half. I think we got the car back to where it's supposed to be. What we'll do with these is we'll go ahead and I'll get G Junior to clean these up real good and paint them before we put them on. And then it shouldn't be a problem taking one side off at a time to get those put back on. And that will be done. So we'll get G Junior to paint those up real nice, and we'll take the bolts off. And just be real careful taking these bolts off. That's why I went and got new bolts. We'll get the shock brackets back on, and the export brace will be installed. All right, so you are going to have to jack the towers apart usually to get them in. The my 66 Mustang, which is underneath that tarp there, I physically had to jack the car up and let the front end sag overnight before I could even get this anywhere close. So, all right, I'm very happy with that. We got the car back on the ground. We had to put it back on the ground so we could get the shocks to move. There's the shocks moving. Oh, this thing needs a whole front end rebuild. All right, everybody, I'm gonna leave it here. That is how you have to put a shock brace, not a shock brace, the export brace in a 67 Ford Mustang, the Mad Mustang. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Please subscribe. You can always do that in that corner. Please give me a thumbs up if you like the Mad Mustang series of videos, and please go check out the other Mustang. I have a whole playlist on the 65 Mustang, and that is a very long playlist. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe, and we will talk to you in the next one.